So you might be wondering what it takes to migrate from an ATX case to an ITX case. But those problems are quite obvious. For example, compatibility issues with motherboard, PSU, RAM clearance, CPU coolers, and some stuff. Because admittedly, ITX cases are varying in terms of feature set, which makes them actually fun. But those problems are something that you're prepared to face when you're downsizing your rig. However, if you are just trying to upgrade from same size, for example, an ATX to another ATX because you fancy the new case because it looks better, or just want an upgrade because your old ATX case doesn't carry any Type C front panel, which you're actually using a lot, then you might actually miss out on some problems that you wouldn't think are obvious. So I've encountered them, so I will list down all the things that I've encountered and how I was able to solve them. If you're wondering about the specs of this, it has a B450 Tomahawk. It has R5 2600. It has 16 gig, 2.6 of Trident Z, 3200 megahertz. I think it's either CL16 or CL18. I've got a 750 watt PSU from Seasonic. And I was using 1080 Ti, but obviously it's not there. It has a 256 gig 970 EVO from Samsung as NVMe SSD. And also at the back, I have another SSD, but not NVMe, which is 1 terabyte of 860 from Samsung. And I've got plenty of Corsair fans. And those are the specs, really. Now, let me first go through the problems that I've encountered. And later on, I will do a deep dive on how I was able to solve them. So, the obvious first problem I have here is the number of fans. So, you can see here, I have one 120mm fan here at the back, two 120mm fan for the cooler, heatsink for CPU, and then two 140mm fan at the top and two 140mm fan at the front. What you can see here, it's mounted there. And also, before I forget, a toilet bowl fan, which is 120. Sorry I can't have a reference right now, but probably I will just show you a pic or two. So the NZXT H500 at least can only take one fan at the top, which can either be a 120 or 140, thankfully. And this, as for this, it officially supports only 120mm fans. So if you can see here, notice these grooves. It's meant for 120mm fans, obviously two of each. However, as you can see here, I forced myself to screw in 140mm fans because of these holes. So it's something that you can utilize to force yourself to mount them, and you can. And I actually like bigger fans in general as for case fans, at least, unless you use them for radiators, which obviously I'm an air-cooled guy, so yeah. So another aspect of migrating is that if you have a lower count of fans than if you have RGB fans, you might encounter some problems in terms of like connecting them together. But at least nowadays, if you bought a newer generation fans, they are mostly daisy chainable, so you won't encounter the problem that I have here. But here's basically the story. So from the NZXT H500, I only have 6 fans, and you know that I bought another. However, I need to properly connect them. Now, when you bought a pack of fans, which I did, so I bought a single pack of 3 120mm LL fans and another pack of two 140 mil fans. And they come with a hub, which you can connect 6, and a Lightning Node Pro, which actually connects to your motherboard and needs to be powered up with SATA, and that hub itself needs to be connected with SATA, so there are tons of cables. I will show you later how it looks like. So the thing is, I only needed one hub if I have 6 fans, but now that I have an extra, I need another hub. However, the complication is that since hubs needs to be connected with a Lightning Node Pro, since I have LED strips like here, and another at the top, if you've noticed in my earlier clip, then yeah, I need 2 of these now. So 2 of the hub and 2 of these, because 1 channel for the LED strips, then the 2 channels are mainly for the fans. So it's quite a lot. It's quite tedious. Thankfully, I know what I'm doing, but I have problems with them. With Lightning, I don't know, but anyway, that's it. And so this is how it looks like currently. It's quite a cable mess. Okay, so these are the hubs. Again, you can connect 6. So I have them. I just have the 2 140 mil fan connect into a single hub, and then the rest connects here. Then these connect to a single hub, and then the LED strips, I think, are connected into another Lightning Node Pro. So it's not as cluttered, though it's quite cluttered, obviously. It's a bad cable management. I tried to tidy it up as best as I can. I know I can do better, but fortunately, I won't be using this rig. But more into that, I will create another video about it. So yeah, quite a mess. So another issue that I've encountered is that my U case has USB Type-C, but my motherboard doesn't have a front panel connection for this. Because in the NZXT H500, it does have 2 USB-As 3.1, which uses the same connection. It's just split into 2. So I don't want this to be forever useless. So I actually made a way. So let's go here. You might notice that I have a PCIe card earlier. And with this PCIe card, it allows me to connect both USB-C and USB-A 3.1. However, you might notice, okay, if my intention is to make my USB-C work, why isn't it populated? Instead, we have here my USB-A 3.1 populated. Okay, so this is the PCIe. So let's go ahead to the motherboard's native connection for the USB-A. And here it is. So you might notice that I have actually an adapter connected to it. And this adapter converts the connection from USB-A 3.1 to USB-C front panel. So this is where my USB is connected. Hence, here it is left unpopulated. And this is just an extension cable. So the problem I've encountered is this. I want to populate both one way or another, but since the only extension cable that I saw is for the USB 3 and USB-A 3.1, that's the only thing I can buy so that I can connect it here. Because in this case, the cable isn't long enough, and to be honest, they shouldn't be, because for the most part, they are located in the front, so they can reach, so the cables aren't really too long that you have to fold them or stuff. So yeah, I know it's kind of clunky, but that's the only way for me to make it work, and it works, so I'm good with this. Now that you know the struggles I've encountered when I'm transferring my build from one case to another, given that it's the same size, the unfortunate thing is that this has been unused for the past 2 years. Context: this is supposed to be for my girl. Unfortunately, in the 2 places that she stays, there's no space. So the solution is to downsize this from an ATX to an ITX. Notice that it has nothing except the motherboard, NVMe, and my solution. Other than that, everything's completely gone now. And they have been transplanted from this to this. I know it's quite abrupt and quite anticlimactic. However, the reality is, if no one uses that case, then it's quite pointless. So I have to redo everything, downsize into an ITX, and here it is. So I'll do first a rundown of the specs, and I'll discuss later the build itself. So let's start with the case itself first. So this is the Shiny Snake S400. If you don't know what that brand is, that is fine. Chinese manufacturers tend to use several names whenever they try to penetrate the US market. As a matter of fact, another name that they use for this brand is Course or Cross. I don't know. Again, it's quite unforgettable. That's why I tend to use Shiny Snake. And if you're gonna search in YouTube, you will see it more than the other brand. So Shiny Snake is something that is definitely way better than the other. As for the IOs at the front, we've got USB-C, two USB 3 Type A, and two USB 2 Type A. Now, not gonna lie, when I first saw what I'll be getting, I thought I'm just gonna get one USB-C and one USB-A, but USB 3. So I bought an adapter that converts my USB 2 header into USB-C. So at least still this will be usable. However, of course, it's quite a downgrade given that this runs about 20 gigabits per second compared to this, which is I think under 1 gigabit. So unfortunately or fortunately, I can't use this anymore because I populated this instead. I chose to use this instead because currently I'm just running a mouse, and it'll be better to use 4 than just 3. So yeah. So apart from that, this case is the V2 version. So in this V2 version, the main difference between V1 and V2 is that the V2 allows up to 67mm in height of CPU cooler. In the V1 version, it can only handle 65, but I think I saw some builds that they actually tried to forcefully fit 67mm. It's quite a shame that the V1 can only handle up to 65 because there are few coolers that are quite good that has 67mm in height. An example of it is from Thermalright, the AXP 120X67. That's actually what I have in another build, but more into that in another video, I guess. So in this one, I have the Noctua L9A. A, I think, stands for AMD because there's an I version. However, I think with the version I got, since it comes also with some mounting options for Intel, I think I can use this particular cooler for both platforms. So anyway, I use this because I'm not really thinking too much about back then. I just thought that, hey, it's Noctua, it must be good, and I need the shortest so that it's compatible to many. But this is actually quite short. There are tons other more options that are better than this in terms of height and cooling capacity. But anyway, I got this and it's quite brown. I don't like it, but it's what I got back then. It has a black version, a Chromax, but not available during when I bought it. So apart from that, you might notice that I did not populate this NVMe slot because I'm using an SSD 1 gig. This particular case you can mount these, but the way you mount them is quite weird. It's only screwed in onto the other side, but in this one you can see the screw holes. So, but since I have the cables here, I won't be able to fit the other SSDs, but if you so choose to, you can do that. Yeah, so anyway, I didn't populate this because if ever she wants to upgrade her storage, because I'm not gonna lie, 1 TB for us is quite small, then she can populate this on her own instead of populating another SSD here. Then yeah, this is way easier. And not gonna lie, SSDs nowadays tend to be the same price as NVMe's, or actually a bit pricier, at least here in the Philippines. So that's it. As for this is 8 gigs each of G-Skill Trident Z, 3200 megahertz. So it's quite nice. The processor is a Ryzen 5 5600. I know it's quite old, but for the games and tasks that she's been doing, it's quite enough, especially against her laptop. So yeah. As for the power supply, this is the FSP Dagger Pro 650 watts. And considering her build, this is actually quite big. However, I think I saw the recommended wattage of your PSU for 1080 Ti is around 650 watts. But I think it's too much considering that I'm running a 65 watt CPU and a 250 watt GPU. So that's around 300 plus. But even if we consider everything, let's say 400 is still way more than 650. But considering that we have that amount of margin, that means if ever she wants to upgrade to something, she can definitely do so. So yeah. FSP is also quite a reputable brand. That's quite nice. Okay, so before I go to the GPU itself, let's discuss these fans. So as for the fan mounting options, you can mount 2 fans at the top. I've seen some builds that they were able to fit one non-slim fan here because there's quite more space. But here, since we've got the PCIe, it's not recommended to do so. Actually, I don't think you can ever fit one. So instead of using one thick fan at the left and one slim fan at the right, I'd rather have them be the same. So here they go. They're both Arctic P12 slim fans. So they're only 15 millimeter in height. I also use some grill fan, but you might notice that I put them in a different direction, but that's fine. For as long as the cables aren't touching the blades, then you'll be fine. I actually have not them attached initially. But so this PCI keeps hitting the blades of this fan, and therefore since they are daisy chain, I'm not able to run them both. So yeah, it's quite sad. So anyway, You also have an option to mount an additional slim fan here, but only up to 90 millimeter. However, I don't recommend you do that. No matter what you do, okay, you will always run into many cables here. Therefore, even if you pull some air from this fan, it doesn't do a whole lot. And besides, where is it gonna go? It's just full of cables. This is the PSU, there's the GPU there. You'd rather have this basement used as an additional space for SSDs. I actually did that in my another build and it works. So it's fine. So anyway, let's look at the other side. Yeah, I'm using 1080 Ti. I did not use the pigtail because it draws 250 watts, so I'd rather use two dedicated cables for this, and that's it.